in your work there are a lot of symbols like the river or even the tree, which is a even more common symbol. How do you use the symbols? Where do they come from? Is it from your culture or is it from your observation of the world as an artist?
Well, we Iranians are coming from a very long poetic tradition. I think Iranian people is said that they deal with the world much easier through the poetic language than any other form, because perhaps we have never been able to say what we want to say directly. So we use, because of the dictatorship and censorship, so we have always depended on the power of metaphor and symbolism. Everything that somehow has an indirect way of expressing something that is somewhat abstract, and that it requires an imagination. And so this is common if you look at Iranian films or other artists from Iran. You see that seems to be the way we function as people, that we are extremely metaphoric and symbolic. And yet for me as an artist who lives abroad, I find sometimes these metaphors, the symbolism, are actually more common across culture than you think they are. For example, the question of the garden. The garden, universally suggests the idea of paradise, heaven, a place of transformation, exile, or the tree of Tuba, for example, I made, where is a tree in paradise. You find in the religion of Christianity, the tree of Guadalupe. There's references, religious and symbolic references that goes from the Quran to the Bible and etc. The Garden of Eden and what I have depicted in The Woman Without Men, where is a place that is magic, that you can come in but you cannot get out, and if you sin, you're punished. So the writer, as much as myself, have carefully thought through how these symbolisms that we're using could have more universal connotations that our Western viewers or readers can't understand it. So it's very carefully thought after. It's not an accident.
What would you think is the greatest misconception that the Western world has about the country of Iran or the culture of the country?
I think the biggest thing that we battle as, for example, as myself as an artist, or I think as much as the writer of the novel, is the simplistic reading of Iranian culture. And I only speak about Iranian culture, not all Islamic cultures. And mainly that, of course, we are a country that has been dictated by Islamic Revolution, and we're an oppressed country. There's no doubt about the fact that this is not a free country and people suffer. But the victimization of Iranian people in the sense that, for example, the Iranian women are depicted over and over again, I completely disagree, and I believe it's a wrong stereotype that has been built around us. And I think in every work that I do, I try to convey this misconception in the sense that I establish the notion of oppression, but my women or my characters at the end are very, very victorious and not victims. They're fighters, and I think this is really important to portray to the world, that yes, we are suffering under all kinds of dictatorship and oppression, but no, we're not losers.
Do you think of the future of dealing through your art with elements that exist in the Western world that are outside of Iran or your culture or your heritage?
I think deeply as someone who doesn't even live anymore in my country. I tend to more and more, especially as I grow older, lean more toward a kind of a philosophical aim where ultimately it's not the subjects that we're dealing with is no longer about this country or that country, this culture or that culture, this religion or that, but it's about the human experience of living on this planet and issues, the anxieties, the dreams and issues that we're dealing with as people as we come and go. And so that's why I was explaining earlier that my work in some ways travels between timefulness and timelessness, because I think that's where truly you can become philosophical, and you can have things in common across cultures. So I really hope at the end both the film that I'm making and this project makes people to think beyond just nationalities, but at the end to look at existential questions that each one of us shares as human beings.
Do you know any Greek artists, or you're willing to discover Greek artists?
I tell you, I'm very curious about the Greek culture. I feel very ignorant, and this is my shortcoming, not to say that the Greek culture has not prevailed in the world in the way that it has. It's more that I am unfamiliar mainly because I haven't been here very often, and I have not met many Greek artists, but I know there are wonderful artists and wonderful culture here, and I really would like to get to know this culture more because again, I think we have a lot in common.
What do you feel is your personal greatest fear regarding art in the future?
Content. I think absence of content is the greatest fear. I think one of the things that I feel like as the generation moves on and technology and all these things take over, and the seduction with technology, the tendency seems to be more reductive content and more infatuation with technology and what one could do with that. I worry because as I look often in galleries and museums and in sometimes films, I feel really disillusioned by by the absence of subjects and issues that it could be more profound. And I may be wrong, but at least I'm speaking more from the New York experience. And I just feel like this is perhaps something that I worry about, and maybe I'm wrong.